Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigan over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, and for the last time this year, we've got our panel of lovely peoples coming to visit us. So we're going to start with Mr. James JE Pittman. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers at home?
Hey guys, if you haven't seen me by now, where have you been? I'm JE Pittman. You can call me James. I write the Felix Chance Darkly Cozy Urban Fantasy series of books. I also write Pandora Squad, and I've got a couple other new projects for next year, but we're talking about this year, not next year.
All right, outstanding. Next, we have the mini personalities of Jana S Brown, Jena Rey, Chuck Tingle, and many others.
I keep telling you not to give that part away. For heaven's sakes. You tell a man a secret once and blah, 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 blah. Oh, hi, guys. I'm Jana S Brown. I also write under the pen name Jena Rey. That's where all the science fiction, the fantasy, the urban fantasy, the weird and the wonderful with smoochies go. I'm very happy today. And I'm also really, really pleased that he said it was the last time for this year, because I was starting to wonder if I needed to check out my window for the sniper over the hills. So
don't worry, you get all the warning because the ATF always shoots your dog first.
No, that would be sad. Go away, bad man.
Oh, is it too late in the year for these kind of jokes? I'm sorry. I've been hanging out with Nick for too long. Oh, am I supposed to talk about that, Nick? Okay, oops. Man, I'm giving away all the secrets tonight.
No, I didn't need to mute for that. Like, I just used hand and arm signals. No, don't involve me in this shit.
So, Stabby, I actually went to a buddy of mine's house, and one of the guys I served with, he has the level 4 plate carrier sign for his doormat.
Yes. Mine says come back with a warrant. And if anybody didn't know, we had a fire in our front yard recently. And we didn't know it was happening. Our dog was alerting to it. We ignore her because she barks at the wind blowing. And we were letting the dog out for the last time before bed. We were like about to settle down. And the kid lets the dog out and then goes, "Oh my God, the yard is on fire." So we have barreling out of the house. Nick's in his Crocs. I'm in slippers. And immediately we go into put it out mode. He grabs the hose. I start grabbing all of our gallons of water that we have around the house. And I'm sliding down the hill towards the propane tank because there is fire under the propane tank. And we're all just like dousing the flames everywhere we can, trying to put out this fire. Nobody's even thought to call 911. We're just, let's put it out. Let's put it out. Let's put it out. It's about, I don't know, what, like 25 feet of 25 yards of burnt yard. And we have most of it put out by the time we see the lights. One of our neighbors obviously called 911. We get them inside the yard. And they're like, well, we hyped up our chief for nothing. We hyped up our captain for nothing. It's her first time as captain. She was just promoted 5 days ago. We told her this was the big one. And you guys put it out before we got here? And I was like, he's like, but good thing you called us. We can check to make sure there's no like hot spots. I was like,
so what I've noticed is Nick and the Garber family like to close the year out big. Last year they did a heart attack. This year they did a fire under propane. Let's just see
what it was a stroke, not a heart attack.
Okay, let's just see what season 5 brings. I'm thinking alien abduction for season 5.
All I'm saying is they all thought, because they waited for Nick to bring out his driver's license to prove he was who he said he was. They all thought the come back with a warrant sign was hilarious.
So, I like you said, I've seen the doormats for level 4 plate carrier. Is there a level 5? Is that like a thing?
Yeah, that's a combination of level 4 Kevlar plates with a steel plate on top of that.
Okay, all right. I want to be the guy that's wearing like the original old school look, but with modern materials, where he's basically looks like a walking tank because he's got the metal helmet and the metal like barrel chested plate thing going on, just for cool factor because it looks cool.
An Iron Man suit.
All 250 pounds of it.
Basically. And then you could like scream Dos Volt. I can't pronounce Latin to save my life, but
Deus Volt.
freak people out. Yeah, just for the fun of it.
Yep.
Just for shits and grins.
I mean, why else would you do anything? All right, so we're still doing the introduction. We got sidestracted. Wow, that's a word. Distracted by Stabby's little side story about how he ended season 4, slightly different than season 5. So, Jesse, could you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers at home?
Sure. Hi, everyone. If you don't know by now, my name is Jesse James Fain. I sometimes go by the Outlaw Author because the branding wrote itself when Dad named me. I write sword fights, fist fights, gun fights, anything that I can squeeze some kind of fight into because that's what I like to do. Mostly focusing on martial and revenge tales, normally dealing with some kind of soldier's dilemma or a warrior's dilemma. And I've gotten to be blessed enough to join this crew of Merry Misfits in season 4.
Miscreants is another word.
Yeah, it's been my favorite season so far because it's the one I've been here for.
Woohoo!
All right.
The family.
Absolutely. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Miss Melissa McShane of War Hamster fame.
War Hamster!
War Hamster! Rock and roll!
I'm afraid I'm never going to be able to say my own series name right anymore.
You're welcome.
We have it for months.
Well, just so you can actually find it when you need it. I am Melissa McShane, and I am coming to you from India, where it is morning, and it's a beautiful sunny morning out there with a little bit of mist. I write many different types of fantasy, including contemporary fantasy with the Book of Secrets and historical fantasy with the Burning Bright series, The Extraordinaries. And I am also really glad to be here. It has been such a fun ride. Really glad to have been included.
Absolutely. It's been fun. So since you ended your year in a fire, I got to end mine going on the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel in fog. And as you're about to go down what it looks like into the water, if you don't know that the tunnel is there, I had somebody in the car next to me in a convertible screaming, "No, we die!" And like the lady behind me was freaking out because she heard it and she was not a local. So I had to try not to crash as I was laughing hysterically. So I love a little bit of graveyard humor, gallows humor, whatever you prefer to call it. So
how very the midst of her.
But yeah, there actually is somebody in this that works for Virginia Department of Transportation on each end of the tunnel whose whole job is to get into the vehicle with you and drive it for you if you panic. Because apparently some people don't do tunnels. Mm-hmm. And for the love of God, if you're going through a tunnel, speed limit, maintain it, please. Please. Although I complained once to a friend of mine from California, and he said us East Coasters can't complain because they drive in California, and that's totally different. Does that check out for you, Nick?
Yeah, that tracks. Your worst drivers, though, because I just heard on the radio today that California drivers are the third worst drivers in the country. And I'm like, but they never named the first two, and I'm willing to bet in the top 2, it's South Texas.
I was thinking New York because I've seen the cabbies in New York. Like I've seen some of those. Like maybe they're number 1 and 2.
New York is number 2. Ohio is number 1.
Ohio
is the state that's so bad they'll go to space just to get away. It's put out more astronauts than any other state.
Why did I ever leave Ohio?
Ohio is a weird one. We watched the OPL, the On Patrol Live things, and they picked up Toledo, Ohio, and like, oh, this should be kind of run of the mill. No, they're the ones where everything scary happens. It's like there's a shooting going on. Let's go to Ohio. There's a chase going on, and somebody's at the bottom of the bridge. Let's go to Ohio. It's like, I don't want to go to Ohio. This is not fun.
It's home by Bengals, so that tells you everything you need to know about Ohio, and it also has the Browns.
So I've been I watched some of those videos too, the body cam, because you can find the good and the bad. If you want to describe what fighting might look like with people who have no training, that's a good way to kind of watch the body mechanics. But some of them, you're right, they're like, I don't know, I'm gonna get a speeding ticket, but let's make it worse and drive off and crash into the river, because what else are you gonna do on a Friday morning? It's that old adage.
I don't know, maybe live.
Yeah. It's that old adage, you can't talk yourself out of a ticket, but you can certainly talk yourself into one.
Oh, amen.
Yeah.
Although, nothing tops the true life crime procedurals of Reno 911.
Oh, okay.
And Super Troopers, if you're young enough to or old enough, I don't know. If you've seen that one, it's a good one.
Listen here, man.
I'm still waiting for a cop when he pulls me over. I mean, I haven't got a ticket in a decade and a half, but if it happens, I want them to meow at me because, I've seen that movie. So, all right. So the next part of the introduction is where we first met them. And I'm pretty sure we all met in some sort of coffee rehab. Stabby would be leading it, except she's not a quitter. So speaking of coffee, what have you been drinking today, Stabby?
Oh, sorry.
Right on a huge mouthful of snacks.
Good job there.
Well, that's what happens when you go to a restaurant.
Timing is everything.
The waiter always times it when you got a food full, and then they're like, "How's your food?" And you're like, "Uh-huh."
They do that on purpose just to make sure you don't talk much to them, and then just do their table and leave.
I believe it. They probably train it like, wait till their mouth is full and then approach.
It's timing. All about the timing. Like a stand-up comic, it is all about the timing.
So, what am I drinking right now? Just in general, like what's in my cup?
Yeah, in general. I mean, we're simping and pimping for Coffee Brand coffee. It's good.
Okay, so this one is water. This one is simply watermelon juice. This one is White Claw Surf. And the coffee is still in the kitchen. But that is
fucking beverages.
But that is English, or the what is it? The toffee coffee. The toffee coffee from Coffee Brand Coffee is in the kitchen, and that is for after dinner.
I was going to open my spiked jack-o'-lantern because it came this morning, and then I realized I accidentally checked the wrong box, and I got whole beans, so I've got to go buy a grinder.
Oops.
So
I use my Ninja to grind it up.
I don't have a Ninja. I just have a Keurig, but you can do, I have the refillable cup, so I can add my own stuff to it, so I've got to get a grinder. So you're raising your hand to speak, Jesse?
No, you just got to get with the program and get a Ninja. Come on, man. What's wrong with you?
You can do so much with the Ninja. You can make
I make the kids smoothies with the Ninja blender thingy, but you can grind coffee with it?
Yeah. That is all I use mine for, actually, because I have an actual blender. I use my Ninja just to grind down my coffee beans.
JR, you need to watch the entire infomercial sometime in the middle of the night. They show you all these steps.
So I ended up having the sugar cookie because that one came out. It ground as appropriate, which is pretty good. I really dig it. Instead of adding the creamer like I normally do, because that's a lot of calories, I stole a little bit of the kids' oat milk because I don't keep regular milk. I don't go through it often enough. But the unsweetened almond milk kind of with the sugar cookie was enough. So that dug it. And then I've been on a hot chocolate kick. So I bought last year, and then I just stored it in an airtight Mylar container. A bunch of because they had a sale at the end of the year of the hot chocolate. I'm like, I probably ought to drink that. So I've been making and going through a lot of hot chocolate. Which you add some marshmallows because it's communist not to add the marshmallows. And then my sister was like, you've got to get it and get like a candy cane stir stick for it because then it's peppermint and hot chocolate. So I'm going to try that tomorrow. So what about everyone else? What have you guys been drinking this holiday season? Because we are recording this. It's less than a week from Christmas.
Well, hot chocolate's my drink of the season. Hot chocolate's my drink of the season for sure. Even though I've got Chick-fil-A's diet lemonade going on right now.
What makes it diet? Do they just add less? Is it like less sugar? I don't know how they make their lemonade.
They do Splenda or something like that instead.
Okay.
And sugar.
You can't go wrong with Chick-fil-A. You just need to get them to open on Sundays, for crying out loud. So since we're talking food real quick, Melissa, what do you miss most about American food since you're over there in India land?
Oh, okay. I was going to say Mexican food, but we found a really good Mexican restaurant locally. So,
Nice.
okay. So the thing I miss most is actual giant baked potatoes, because this is now the land of the potato. Okay. The British brought the potatoes here, made the Indians cultivate them, and now they have adopted it. And so you get potatoes anywhere, but it's French fries, it's tater tots, it's roasted potatoes. You cannot get a baked potato. And if you do, they are this big, teeny tiny, not this big, which is what I like. And so not only do you not get the baked potatoes, but the only place I've ever found sour cream is at that Mexican restaurant. And so I can't get one of my favorite foods is baked potato with lots of cheese and sour cream and butter and maybe some chili on top.
And chives, because you got to load it.
And chives are in there, but
green onions if chives aren't available.
Yeah, I can't get that here, and I find that because I can't get it, I crave it more than I usually do. Because you miss it when you realize you can't have it anymore.
I'm gonna see what it costs to send you a bag of like Idaho potatoes.
Oh, that'd be great. I bet it costs $100. You have no idea
not
how
let it in anyway.
As an Irishman, I think I might be able to afford that to send that to you because you need.
What kind of potatoes are they in India? Are they? Do you know?
They're I don't remember because they don't make a big deal about the potatoes they like we do. Like they won't say it's an Idaho potato, it's a russet, it's a baker, it's whatever. They do yellow potatoes. I know the golden potato, because one of the places we went, we used to go served potato wedges, and it was clearly a golden potato. But most of them are just russets. They're real little. McDonald's sources its own potatoes. So that their fries are up to the international standard of McDonald's. Right.
So there are 10 types of potatoes common in India, but they all have Indian language names that I can't pronounce. So I'm just anywhere from yellow to russet, but they don't have what we would consider Idaho potatoes, the big ones.
Right. They don't have Idaho potatoes. And then some of them, they aren't very good. You get some places that are very mealy, like they're just getting the cheapest potato. Well, they're probably not frozen, given the way they produce them here. It's a different variety. So it's not that kind of mealy. It's just not, I don't know. It's hard to explain. The texture is a little different, but most places, I mean, the potatoes are actually pretty good. They really latched onto it. I read somewhere that Bengal is like the 4th biggest exporter of potatoes in the world. So, for a country that had to be paid to eat potatoes in the first place, they sure have done really well with them.
And potatoes give you the gift of life, otherwise known as vodka. So that's cool. Do they do yams as well? Sweet potatoes?
I haven't seen any yams. No, have not seen yams.
Every time I think of yams,
on the yams, bud.
When I was in high school, we read a short story, and all I remember, it was set in Africa, as we were doing short stories from all of the different cultural regions of the world was the topic for that section. And I remember there was one set in Africa, and the chief was talking to his son, and he's like, "Yams are a manly food." And that's all I remember from that whole year was that one line. And I've like typed that in to try to find that short story. And I just, when you tell that story, it'd be cool to be able to tell him it's this by this guy.
Yeah,
pure sugar.
Yeah. So I actually took the leftover sweet potato casserole that we took to the church shindig, because like 4 other people brought sweet potato casseroles, and they had the nuts and the good stuff in it, which I didn't put because I'm like, oh, people have allergies. Let me not have the fun stuff. And so I went to make it into potato bread, and half of it was uncooked in the inside. The outer side was burnt, so I messed up somehow.
Oh dear.
And then when I dropped it, because I accidentally dropped it trying to get it out of the bread pan, it shattered and then splat all at the same time. I'm like, This is like a horror thing, right? Like if I write this, I'm going to describe that when I write my horror short story because it was bad. It was like crack, crunch, and then splat all at once.
All right, so people, please support the podcast so that JR can afford to get some cooking lessons before he hurts himself or others.
We send him books all the time and recipes. Like he's just as unwilling to learn. He's the worst student.
No, I'm trying. I'm getting better. I just, breads are a special.
He needs
He still has my great grandmother. He still has my great grandmother's cookbooks. Like, there's no excuse.
So hold on.
Okay.
I actually those are so run down that we're actually in the process of scanning them delicately because I don't want them to crumble. It is a World War II government issue canning recipe book. So it's what the government said, can your own stuff, not to cook.
Oh, so many of those have been updated too. Be careful. Please don't kill yourself.
Here's the thing: is the one book I sent you is nothing but cakes, cookies, and breads. How do I know this? Because you have my favorite pancake recipe.
We're in the process of.
And I know that book is falling apart. I've been using that book to cook since I was about 6 years old.
Well, we're in the process of scanning it, so we can go to I don't know, whoever prints books when you're just doing a one-off, and I'll send you an updated version.
No,
I'm sure we can figure it out.
You're scared to touch it. You're so scared to touch it. I gotta put on my white gloves. No, just open the dang thing.
You don't understand. I did one of my 2 internships as a graduate student. I had to do 2 internships. I interned at Valley Forge, and I worked in their armory, reconstituting and fixing the old the old Revolutionary War weapons. And I worked in the preservation of ancient documents archive, where it was white gloved, like face mask before Rona made them uncool, like the whole 9 yards. Like I had the plastic sleeves to cover just in case you got like a little bit of skin oil on that crap. All right, I felt like I could stick my hand up a Jurassic ass. It was so much nonsense on my hand.
I'm just saying, great grandma Annie from Ogden, Utah is rolling over in her grave every time you pull out your white gloves to use her cookbook.
Well, I'll just pour some beer on her grave and say America, and she'll be okay.
She probably would. I mean, she's buried in Nebraska now, so.
That's corn. That's corn whiskey. I'll hook her up. All right, so what's everyone else been drinking this holiday season for your caffeinated fix? I'm gonna guess Dr. Pepper for Jana.
Perfect. She will kick a child, and I'm getting her that hoodie. That's her gift this year. I'm getting.
There's a lot of things that I'll do for a Diet Dr. Pepper. Thanks.
But nothing for a Klondike bar.
No, I don't like Klondike bars. I mean, they're fine, but they're not a favorite.
I'll do some sketchy shit for some tacos.
Yeah,
there is that. But I also, this time of year, I also drink blueberry tea because it's very soothing and it helps with chasing off all of the bugs. So and
where do you get that from?
There's
Because that's
this one is not Tazo. I'll find you. I think it's from Yogi, and they have a blueberry tea, and you do that with some lemon, and it's very nice, and I like it. So, and then I'm with Jesse. There's all the hot chocolate, all of it.
So we had this when I was working at Starbucks because I was a black apron barista. I did all the fancy training when I was going to grad school. They actually had they owned Tea Havana at the time, and they had this tea.
Place.
It was tasted like peppermint, like big red peppermint gum in tea. And I have never been able to find, since Tea Havana went out of business, anybody that replicates that. And I've been so disappointed.
Aww.
And that is when I learned the joy of German rock sugar that you add to your tea because it melts.
Mm-hmm.
It's and it's good just to crunch by itself.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. So what have you been drinking, Melissa?
Oh, I drink Coca-Cola in tiny little bottles because that's
tiny?
how it comes. 250 milliliters.
Ooh, that is tiny.
It's
How many
teeny.
ounces is that?
That's a tease right there. That's
It's like, okay, 9 ounces.
Wow.
If you figure 500 milliliters is 16.9, then it's half that. And it is tiny. And it's not quite enough, but 2 bottles are too many right in a row for me. I get full really fast on the liquid. So but it's they come in the tiny little bottles. And then they also come in ginormous 2.25 liter bottles.
Oh, 2.5 liter. Wow.
Okay. I don't know why. They have weird sizes. They have everything except the 500 milliliter size.
Or the
everything. The thing is, back in the old days, green glass Coke bottles, they were only about 8 ounces.
Yeah, just the little ones. Yeah, the little ones.
Yeah, the actual green glass. I remember, we'd save them and we'd go up to the corner store and they'd actually refill them on site.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool.
My grandfather still refers to a 12-ounce Coca-Cola as a belly washer because that's what they called them.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm here for it. What have you been drinking this winter season, James?
Well, anything without sugar, because having some issues. Found some no sugar added hot chocolate that was pretty good. 0 sugars on the Sprites and the Gatorades and the Cokes and all that. So, I'm trying to actually be good. This is why I did not subscribe to the lovely care packages from Jana, which I know are amazing, but will probably kill me.
You just have to have a little bit of willpower.
Death is, it depends on how you're going to go out.
Oh, no.
I want to go out peacefully in my sleep, not like all those screaming people in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, all of Jana's snacks tonight. Like, that's
So, what about you, Jesse? What have you been drinking? Is anything exciting?
I am probably going to once this diet lemonade's gone, I am probably going to move over to some of my homemade wine. It's been that kind of day, and I'll only have probably 4 ounces or so of it because I just don't enjoy drinking that much. But it's the kind of night to have a drink.
I get that. Nick, have you been mixing it up with the caffeinated beverages today?
I've been sticking with is it butterscotch that we got? The coffee? What did I get a subscription to? Butterscotch toffee. That has been amazing.
Nice.
I didn't know I set up a subscription, but like every couple of weeks they send me a new bag. So I'm like, all right,
it
cool.
Just shows up.
Okay.
It's like magic.
Now I got to cancel it because it's a little pricey. It gets there. Goes good with bourbon. Evan Williams, Old Forester. Put a little snippet in there for you for a little Irish action. It's been good.
Just drink responsibly, people. So, all right. So we're going to normally this would be the part, and I'm not actually going to tag this as sponsored, but normally this would be an insert a commercial. Instead, I'm going to let all of you get a chance to briefly pimp what you've got that you want people to know about as they, use their Christmas gift cards and wrap this year up. And then we're going to go all nostalgic for the second half. So Jesse, what do you got for us?
So I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna throw out 2 real quick because Contested Landing is the only thing that you can go pick up that's got me in it right now. There's been a lot of publishers stuff going on. Things take time, whatever. But early next year, I have 2 stories coming out in 2 separate anthos with the same character. It's a Rune Red Eagle. Rune is a combination of the Skinwalker and Berserker myths. He's a combination of my life, my ancestry, all made into my own personal Conan the Barbarian. He is an absolute blast. The stories are action-packed. You can find one in Cogs and Cutlasses from Three Ravens Publishing, and the other one will be in Deadly Fire, Dragons in Combat from Bayonet Books. Both should be out hopefully sometime early next year. Please check them out. I've got a Substack all about it on my Substack.
I actually have, so JF Posthumous, Jenny is doing the cover for that one, and she just sent the proofs back today as we're recording. We had to move the text around because it covered the dragon's face, and like you're going to put a dragon on the cover, you want people to see the dragon. So we had to mix that up a little bit. And then my mother picked the, instead of going by, the top sellers, because she didn't want to look that up, she picked some of the stories she liked the best, and mine didn't get on there, so I feel a little sad. I am not on the cover of my own imprint. Jesse made the cover though.
Oh man, I made the cover.
So now you could be team and more.
Oh my gosh.
I think she intentionally excluded mine because she tried to, the appearance of impropriety. At least that's what I'm going to keep telling myself, that I was like totally number one, but she just couldn't like show favorites.
Right. You
that's
keep
how that
telling
works.
yourself
Yep.
that. Yeah.
Whatever helps you sleep at night.
So what about you, Pittman? What have you got coming out that you want to pimp out to the peoples?
Well, let's see. Felix, Second Chance. And hopefully, soon after the new year, Off Chance. First 3 books in the Felix Chance series. The first arc will be complete. So go check him out. And if you're in a more action sci-fi mood, well, Pandora blows a lot of shit up. So Pandora Squad for your action adrenaline junkies.
All righty.
All things that go boom.
Yep, absolutely. Jana, what do we got from you, or one of your personalities at least?
Oh, so many personalities. Let's see. Jadlyn Asher has a 99-cent sale on Desert Rains, which is my Space Cowboys romance. So Firefly with more kissing. And a lot of it's more landbound, but it's that kind of action adventure feel, kicking butt, taking names. Death's Night, which we've talked about before, is also 99 cents through the end of the year. And then I have a super secret thing that by the time this comes out should be available. My mother is an amazing woman who we've been talking about food stuff, and she taught me a lot of what I know about that. And over the years, she taught at university for 12 years. She taught all these other things. So she's had all these recipes just out floating around. And so for Christmas, I have gathered all of the recipes that I could find that are her classic ones into one place, and we are releasing a new cookbook that will be all of my mother's classic top shelf recipes. So I'm very excited about that, and that should be out hopefully by Christmas.
Nice.
Pre-order when?
What was that?
Pre-order when?
As soon as Melissa and I finish putting it together. Melissa's my cover designer for
I have
this one.
to do the cover. So I will be doing the cover as soon as I finish recording this podcast. So that is my job.
Outstanding. So we will link to all of that. I will track down all the links for all of these before the episode, because some of them won't have links now when we record, but they will when this airs. So we'll link to that cookbook. At what point in time are you going to record yourself cooking and make a YouTube channel of Jana Brown Cooks?
Well, would you rather I do that, or would you rather I help you work on the reboot series? Because I don't have enough hours in the day to do it all.
I'm just saying I don't get paid off your cooking, so we're going to do the reboot, I guess.
There you go. It is the problem with having lots and lots of interests. I see this with a lot of writers, and I am also guilty, is that we love so many different things that if you spend time doing all the things that you love, you don't actually spend time writing. And so if I want to keep the words coming, then I have to let some of my hobbies not turn into something else as well.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we need to clone you so I can get the cooking channel and you could write the book.
I'm good with that. I've said this before that I would like there to be at least 3 of me, but I know I've read too much Calvin and Hobbes, and they had it right that if I had that many clones of me, the clones of me would start causing trouble for each other, and sooner or later we'd all end up being worms. So it's okay.
Yes, but you can mix it up a little bit. You could call one of them Jadelyn and one of them Jenna, and one of them you could just stay as Jana, and then it keeps it easy. And then you just they're all J names, so you'd have to tattoo something on the forehead so you know the other two, which was which.
J1.
In all fairness, Jenna, he keeps trying to find somebody to clone me as well. So
I just need someone to cook. All right, so I can write more.
Melissa too, so
yeah.
I'm just thinking about all the people who they're cooking. I just want to clone their brain and stick it in one synthetic, so I have Rosie the maid with all the cooking skills.
He's trying to.
Because any of our clones would actually behave that well. Are you kidding me?
Probably not.
Here's the thought.
Personality.
JR, here's the thought. You could learn to cook yourself.
I am. It's just slow going, and I burnt a lot of things. And in this economy, I can't afford to waste it. I was contemplating eating the half-cooked bread because things are so expensive right now. All right.
Gross.
I feel.
He's trying to start a clone harem.
Oh, no.
Well, actually,
I'm out.
that might be an interesting story idea, though. Heinlein covered some of that. I'm just saying we could go back to the classics. Put the Pope back in science fiction.
I feel the need to defend JR though, because cooking is like riding a bike or archery or things like that. Yeah, you can figure it out if you try hard enough, but you're going to lose a lot of arrows or you're going to fall off that bike a lot when you're learning it on your own. You really need somebody to help. You really need somebody to teach you.
And most cookbooks are written like you already know what the hell you're doing. And newsflash, I'm constantly Googling what some of these words mean. Like when they're talking about the way to serve, I'm just like, no, English, please. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So in case you guys don't know, I torture JR on a nightly basis. Whatever I make up on the mountain, he gets a picture of it.
She does. And I can't complain because then Nick gets stabbed when I do. It's not fair.
So he gets a picture of whatever amazing thing I decided to bake. So sometimes it's just a loaf of bread, homemade pizzas. But right before the fire, our power company had actually shut off power to the whole entire county in case of electrical fires, which I found funny because right after they turned it on, we wound up with our fire. But so 3 days I was in the dark, and luckily we keep aquifers full of water because we're on a well, so our pump doesn't work if we have no power. And the second night I am cooking in candlelight in the kitchen, and
I left you one.
Thank you. I am cooking in the candlelight, and I send JR a picture, and I'm like, no power, no excuses. And it's like 2 medium rare steaks. It's pasta with chicken and bacon in it. And he's like, I'm done with you.
I just keep it simple. Although when I was in college, Maxim magazine put out a cookbook. It was called A Man, a Can, and a Plan. And everything is that cookbook. If you're single and you don't care about your physical health, I highly recommend it. It literally just a can of this, a can of that, dump it all together. You got like a cowboy feast. I mean, but it does have a lot of salt in it because it's all the canned stuff. So, I mean, it will kill you, but you will die smiling. I'm just going to throw that out there. But my mom threw it away because she's like, I don't want you to die from a heart attack. So there with that brilliant idea. So what about you, Melissa? We were listing all the books we were going to pimp out, and we have not let you answer yours.
Right. Well, my ongoing series is War Master, which is lit RPG, which if you don't know what that is, this is an experience for you. It is fantasy or science fiction or whatever genre fiction, if game statistics were an actual part of the world. And it is the War Master series is full of adventure. It is exciting. We are on book 5. First book is War Master 1, Dungeon Spiteful. And I've got the series is in progress. The book 7 is with the editor. Book 6 is working on cover art. I'm almost done writing book 9. I get very mixed up as to where I am in the series, but the first 5 books are available, and they're all available on audio as well as print and ebook. And I am having a really great time writing it. They are so much fun. So yeah, be looking for those wherever books are sold.
So the covers are pretty good. I don't like the first one as much. Something about it just is off.
Well,
but I like the ones that
first
come
one.
after.
The first one is my fault. I did not make it dynamic enough because basically I work with the cover artist and I say, this is what I want, and he gives it to me. And with that one, I said, you know, this looks fine, but would you do this? And he did the thing, but it wasn't really dramatic. And I was so tired of going back and forth about it. I just said, okay, let's just go with this. And so I kind of regret that. And there's a part of me that's thinking maybe I need to go back and ask them to make this change because I have a very good relationship with that designer. And I think they would probably do it, but it's hard enough getting them. They're very good. It's a group called Etheric Designs. And they are a consortium of artists where they have the artists who are from a lot of Eastern European countries where English is not their first language, and they're not as good at it. So they work with people who are communicators, and so we all work together. And it's been a really great experience. They're very good, but they do have a habit of not communicating with me for weeks and then dumping everything on me all at once. And I just got back the I wish I had a way of showing it. The art for the 6th book cover. I wish I'd thought of that, but it's really great. It is very dynamic in the way that the first book cover is not. So I am very pleased.
Nice. I actually have everything I'm working on there. We're going to do the rapid release. So even when I finish the first book, I've still got to write second and third and so on before they get published. But we do have the anthology that he mentioned, Deadly Fire, coming out by Bayonet Books. That does have a story by me included. I think that's the one I wrote with Jena Rey. Not Jana. It was Jena this time. Jana is nicer to me than Jena. Jena is like all bossy, but Jana was nice.
Yeah, no, Jena is really pushy about, it will be correct, and we're going to take this part out because it sucks. And there might be a cameo by somebody else that we know by the time all said and done. But you'll have to read the story in order to know that.
It is. It's set in the reboot world, but it wasn't a game lit short story. I don't know how you could tell that in a short story, game lit or lit RPG, because
it's hard
with that few words. Like you're wasting a lot of them on the stats.
Well, you have to depend on the reader already understanding the concept, and then you have to do not as crunchy. But there's a wide variety in lit RPG and game lit. Some of it is very light on the statistics, and some of it, that's all they want. And it's great because it means there's something for every reader. That's one of the things I like about it.
The guys that behind Black Rifle Coffee, and I don't support them as a business. There's lots of problems with them as a business, but they do put out some fire ads. And they got one where one of the guys is doing the parachute, like kick him out the door with all of his kids lining out before they go on the bus. And that just happened to show up in my feed when the publishing company is like, hey, yeah, you need to throw me a short story. So it's like, well, what happens if you go on a jump and you don't land where you think you're going to land? And then that's how we started. And instead they land in a game world. And, you're parachuting through the sky on a training mission, and suddenly you see a dragon. And what are you going to do?
Panic.
If it was Nick, he'd go all like Cool Hand Luke and try to ride it. What's the one about the nuclear bomb where he rides the bomb down? I'm drawing a blank on that movie name.
Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, that'd be Nick if he saw a dragon in the sky while he's flying or dropping. That would be Nick.
Ring of Fire with Matthew McConaughey jumping with the war axe and then jump.
Yeah, with the axe.
That would be a good one too. Maybe we need another volume. Jesse, we're gonna have to make that happen.
Hey man, I got another rune story whenever we're at Rock.
At some point in time, you're gonna have to bundle those all together into a collection or string them together in a braided novel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, he's my Conan, so I'm gonna have all kinds of shorts, and then I'll do the novella. And then we'll piece it all from there. So we'll get it figured out.
And then you could like read it on once you get the rights entirely back to all of them as that happens, you could like do dramatic readings, and do your Matthew McConaughey voice, whatever you got to do.
All right.
The problem with those is, could you sustain it? Although the weird thing is, I've been listening to a lot of like YouTube videos on how to do things and whatnot as I'm on my walk, because I try to, I'm either listening to an audiobook or like, improving skills.
True crime.
But a lot of them are using dubbed AI versions of narrators I actually know. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's so-and-so from this. Oh, it's AI. Okay. Because it's always a little bit off. I definitely couldn't do that long-term for a book because it gets annoying really quick. And then you wonder, wait, do they even have permission to use this guy's voice?
Probably not.
But it's been weird.
Fun fact, Matthew McConaughey eats ketchup on everything because he absolutely loves ketchup. It's his favorite food.
Wow.
Just saying.
Interesting. Thanks for that. So now let's actually... Thanks. So do you guys have a favorite episode that you've been on this year?
Oh, yeah. The Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was my favorite. That was fantastic. It was so much fun.
I like that one, and the Galaxy Quest. We had a real kick with that one too.
Yep.
Those are both such great properties that talking about them was tremendously fun.
Those two are highlights for sure. But I gotta go with Gundam. Me and HP and JC just like, I don't think we'd stop talking for 2 hours.
And Stabby couldn't spell a single word.
Like, what? Huh?
Nice. I know for me, and then we'll let everyone else join in. I like the who, what, and why of space colonization, and I think there's totally like the more for there. We're going to definitely do homesteading in space because that's part of space colonization. I think at some point you're not going to jump in and instantly have all the like amenities because you got to build up to it, and it's going to take time to build your infrastructure. So I think there's some crossover, and mostly I just like homesteading topics. So this is an excuse to jam it in my podcast if I make it in space. So I like the space colonization because I think that's fascinating. And then Nick and I have talked about this on the air before, but a couple years ago, the College of Cardinals did this discussion where if we find alien life, how do we determine if it's God's children and thus we can't eat them because they're also brothers and sisters in religion, or it's a space cow and we can make steaks? Because I kind of want to know what alien steak tastes like. I'm just saying. So for me, it was that one in the Lit RPG panel, mostly because I've been reading a lot of that genre lately. And so I was just fascinating hearing some people that are actually writing that stuff, chatting. And I did a lot of listening on that one. I know if my teachers in elementary school could hear me now, I actually listened. I know. Shocking. But what about you, James? Did you have a favorite?
I mean, Jesse, because I went Gundams.
No, I was asking if you had another favorite because you're kind of addicted to Gundam, so I'm asking you to expand your horizons.
Well, the Indiana Jones one was great. Galaxy Quest was amazing. I know me and Jenna and Mr. Bonchar had a lot of the same ideas about it. Dude, I've done so many this year. It's been hilarious. The Fae one where they attacked Felix in the middle of the show, that was quite memorable. Hey, he's just sitting there well weighted down in mine, and all of a sudden he falls over on me. Something got him. They were coming.
They were listening.
Yeah, we spoke their name too loudly. What about you, Jesse? Did you have a favorite?
I really dug our Dog Soldiers one. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. That one and the one we did for Contested Landing. I know that's like my solo episode, but that was my first solo podcast, the first one I'd ever done. And so that was a really memorable moment for me. And so I really dug that too.
So we did probably season 1. I needed a fill-in guest because someone canceled. I'm like, I know, I'll just get someone to interview me about one of my books. And having been and then of course there were tech issues, so it never got aired. But having been on the other side of the microphone where they're asking you the questions, I get it now. I'm a lot more understanding with our guests because I went like, I mean, I know the book, I wrote the book, but
so. Yeah, I've interviewed you. You're like the worst person to interview.
You wound me,
Nick. Give tips to like new authors and shit, and then I'm over here. I'm like, Jerry, you're kind of harsh, man. Remember the time I interviewed you and you were like total dog shit? It was like pulling teeth, man. It's like you had no idea how to sell your own shit. It was amazing.
I had memory issues, all right? I didn't actually remember the book. I already scrubbed it from my mind.
I took that into consideration, even with our shared PTSD. Unfortunately, I helped cause some of that. Dog shit.
I mean, I got no recollection. That's all I'm going to say. So, all right. What about
Luckily,
you?
You do. I have a recollection of it. I have fucking nightmares, man.
I'm just saying, like, if it's not on the podcast where I can see it, it didn't happen. So that episode does not exist.
Balls. It wasn't that bad, but it was still pretty bad.
I know. What about you? What about you, Jana? Do you have a favorite episode? You're muted.
Yes, finding the mute button because my mouse, I think the battery is dying, so it's doing the thing where you start moving and it goes. No, I was talking to my husband about this earlier because I thought the question would come up. And the thing is that we do so many different kinds of episodes that I end up liking them for different reasons. Because
Okay.
things like the nostalgia episodes where we've talked about G.I. Joe and we've talked about Transformers, we've talked about those kinds of things, that's a certain thing that's really fun. And then there's the others that are like the space exploration where we really get to ponder the question of, well, what if and where would it go? And so I just enjoy being here. I enjoy being surrounded by people who are just as nerdy as I am and who want to dig in and say, okay, what would it be like if we did this? Or, so I enjoy pretty much all of them I've been on. So there we go. There's the answer that's not an answer. I just enjoy the crew.
That's the suck up answer.
Darn straight.
Where's their apple?
Told me to be nice to you. So
Yeah.
Team mom. Jana's the team mom.
Yeah.
That's my job.
But just,
I am. It's true.
She's definitely the den mother of this group.
Pittman, you were also on the Magic in Space episode. I thought you might dig that one, given what you're writing now. Kind of has that magical realism vibe going on.
Yeah, I really I had high hopes for. I think that was the one my internet died out on. So I had to bail early.
You were part of there, so
I was partly there, and then I kept seeing lightning out my studio window, and then everybody was like, and I was like, well, I'm not going to make this one.
That's the end of that.
Yeah.
So that one I had high hopes for because it's a fun topic for me. I did a panel at MarsCon back in January this year for Magic in Space, and it's just such a fun topic. Especially when you get to go in space every third word.
For my favorite episode that Melissa was on, I will say it was either a tie between her. We did the episode about elves, not just Santa's helpers, and werewolves and shifters. Those two were fun with Melissa.
That's right. The werewolves one, that was really good. I'm going to go with Jana. All of them I've been on have been a lot of fun. Some of them stand out more than others, but I can't remember ever being on one and thinking, oh, this is really dumb at the end, because they were all really great. But yeah, the werewolves one was really cool.
For my favorite with Jana, I like the Noble Bride fiction because I'd never heard of that genre before, which was kind of cool. She came a lot of the Spooktober episodes. So like the Monster Under Your Bed, Coolest Monsters in North America, Mummies, Boogeyman. I thought those were all kind of fun as well.
Spooktober is always fun stuff because you get to dig into such specific monsters.
Yeah.
And then for the ones that Jesse was on, I mean, some of you were on these episodes too. I'm just pulling out your name and then the ones I remember you being on. But with Jesse J, we did the space colonization, which I mentioned was one of my favorites, but also enjoying the post-apocalyptic playground. That was kind of a cool topic because there are so many details, if you know anything about the world, that they get wrong on the post-apocalypse. Like, I'm sorry, gas doesn't last that long. Canned foods will be bad pretty quickly. Try going into a grocery store a month later and you'll die of the botulism because black mold will be everywhere. So people get a lot of those details wrong. I'm just saying. So it was fun to talk about that topic. So, and did I miss anybody? Pittman was on the post-apocalyptic playground as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then because I'm a shill for this franchise,
whenever we get together, like I was literally looking through my calendar. I lost count of how many episodes I've been on this year, and like all the Spooktober stuff, Monsters on the Bed, Bigfoot, all that just kind of ran together in my head, and I'm just like, well, that was a fun month. I was on like every other day recording with you guys.
And then for I don't know who all was on this one, but also the Stargate one, because I'm just a huge Stargate fan. Like I love
that one.
That was a great one.
We need to get Melissa on more. She was only on like 6 episodes this season because her whole life and time zones and traveling back and forth.
Well, some of it is that if I'm traveling to the U.S., I have so much that I'm doing in the 2 weeks that I'm there that I don't have time, even though I think I could probably make time because then it's in the evening for me. So I need to look at my schedule a little more and be a little more generous with myself and when I can do this, because I love being on here. You guys have been so great to invite me, and I've just had such a great time. My husband just said I was being a suck up. I'm going to have to leave now and beat him about head and shoulders.
Just mute yourself before you start beating him, so that there's no
right.
In your defense, Melissa, if you're out of the country for most of the year, the time you are in the U.S., I would totally be hogging all that with your family. That's the right answer.
Yeah. Well, see, that's exactly it. It's family, it's work, it's that I get really my schedule gets really full. So this year that meant November I wasn't available for anything in November. I was just too busy. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the coming year and all the many topics that we're going to do then. So.
Yeah, we actually are going to have to figure out some of those. We've got, believe it or not, we're going to be shortly after we start season 5, we'll hit episode 500. And that's just 500 with the blasters and blades, because we had 175 aired episodes under the Stargate or Sci-Fi Shenanigans.
Nice.
Yeah,
so I have
Blasters and Blades is the only one that counts.
Yeah, because that's the one you were on, right?
Well,
damn right.
Yeah.
Although I enjoyed my time with Chris. Chris Winder is a great guy. Not bad for a crown eater. Unfortunately, he had to get a day job that takes up all his time because his wife likes.
And they were good episodes too, man. I listened to a lot of them in prepping and prepping onto the show. They're all.
Some people have wives that are so unreasonable and they want to do things like cook food and eat meals and not talk to me instead.
Food is a crutch, man. You don't need that shit.
Right? Eat when you're dead.
Sleep when you're dead.
One of the episodes we haven't done, but we really could talk about is like food in sci-fi or in fantasy, because
oh yes, all the
that can be fun.
We have not touched that topic at all.
Yes, I know we have
there. Oops.
We have Ian. I can't remember his last name. He's one of the writers. He lives in North Carolina or in Florida now, but he's the author who happens to be blind when he writes. Ian something. I'm drawing a blank on his. I can picture his face even. He's the one who put me on to Red Adept as a good editing service. But whenever he comes on, we inevitably talk about grilling meat. And we spend the first part of the episode talking about our grills. So, I mean, we ought to just bite the bullet and make it a real episode.
Yeah, I agree.
Talk about eating. You know what? Penciling that in for season 5.
I love writing about food. One of my favorite things. Which is funny because I don't like to cook. So.
I actually gifted. So I bought a set of your books for a friend. Well, for my youngest son, but I also bought a set for a friend of mine who's going to. He's going to be in the hospital for a little bit, surgery recovery. And I gave it to him, and I did give him the warning because he was going to read the War Master series that he needs to read it after he eats because it will make him hungry. Because you talk about food too dang much. You make me hungry. It's not the food. It's not. You ought to put like a trigger warning. Don't read this if you're dying.
Yeah, don't read this if you're hungry, because I make myself hungry for stuff all the time. And when you consider that most of what I'm writing about, I have no access to right now, that is extremely frustrating. Except for books 7 and 8, which are set in fantasy India, and so then I could get the stuff I was writing about.
Have you read any of Davis Ashura's books?
No.
He is an Indian American, so he was born in India, and then he came really young, I believe. I seem to remember that's how he told it, or maybe his parents are from India. But either way, he grew up here, but he's Indian in descent. And so, in his fantasy books are all inspired by Indian mythology and lore and stuff. Because he said he got bored about reading about Europe.
Yeah.
So he wanted to mix it up a little bit.
I look for Indian fantasies because it's really not a genre that this culture gets or cares about. And so it's interesting to see what they write about, because a lot of it is Hindu based and mythology based, their mythologies. It makes for interesting writing, because to anybody outside that, it just looks like fantasy because, it's not our religion, and they have really great stories. So I like looking at, I have a couple of books that I have on my list to read, but it's interesting to look at the Indian fantasies and see what they're doing with their own culture and heritage and history, turning it into something that, do they consider it fantasy when it's something they believe in? That just interests me.
Cool. Well, you have to report back if there are enough Indian authors that are writing fantasy. Maybe we can make a panel, but the trick would be getting them that actually writing in English.
Oh yeah, well they are translated into English. Most of them are, and because like Hindi is a really big, literary section of the literary world here, and then locally we have a Malayalam literary scene, and but English is the language that they tend to all have in common, even more than Hindi. So a lot of stuff is either English language books, or it's been translated from Hindi into English. So all the ones that I've found that are Indian, what I would consider fantasy, are all in English.
Davis Assure, the cool thing is because it so transcends cultures, because every culture has one. But in his branding on his website, it's like in between his first and his last name is the Tree of Life.
Oh, cool!
Because it's also an Indian culture.
Yeah.
And his books are the Casts in the Outcast series, are the ones that I really like.
Okay, I will look those up.
But he also has one that I thought Pittman would like. On the cover is a panda bear doing kung fu.
Nice.
It's called drawing a blank. Let me see if I can remember. It is something steel. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. I'm bad with names, people. I would like to be able to blame that on the head injury, but I was like this before. So, but yeah, he has one that's got a picture of a panda bear. It's the Solace of Hope. There we go. And I did cheat and look that up. But that just the cover alone makes me want to read it. It's like a panda bear with a staff and looking like he's going to go all Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
All right, I've written those down, and we'll look that up. Cool.
So what is the favorite book that you've read this year? And I know I'm going to throw you under the bus, so I'm going to give you guys time to think. And I'm going to say, for me, I got gifted by Garrett Zinan, who is the one that did the wooden plaques that Nick did the unboxing for the podcast. He's a plaque carver in his hobby when he's not driving for Coke. And he's a smart guy and understands Coke is way better than Pepsi. But so he gave me the first book in the King's Dark Tidings series for free. And then I ended up having to spend like $40 to buy the audiobook for the rest of the series, all 7 of them. Hold on, let me throw that up there, Stabby. Give me just a second to throw you full screen. There we go. So that was carved by Garrett Zinan. I'm probably butchering his last name, but he's not going to care. I could call him anything but late for supper. But he recommended it, and I really dug that series. It's dark. The main character is kind of like an assassin, but he was raised from birth to be that way. So, and it's him finding his humanity. And so it's kind of cool. It's got elves that I hate. Most of the time, the elves are supposed to be, you're supposed to like them, but these ones, I just want him to murder them. Violently even. So that's a really cool series. But what about anybody else? Do you have a favorite series that you've read this year? Stabby, are you
2?
Well, Stabby was just going to say that you skipped Stabby and Nick on our favorite episodes.
See, what it is I trust you as co-host to jump in. Is this working? Anybody else believe in this?
No.
No. All right, Stabby. So go read books. Favorite episode?
Nick.
All right, so I got 5, 4 of which are a lot of our panels with these amazing people that come on here. Indiana Jones, Halo was also a particular favorite. Galaxy Quest. Don't ask me about number 4 or 3. But the top tier one, and because it's completely selfish, I got to meet 2 heroes of mine from the comic book industry, Graham Nolan and Chuck Dixon. Now, I've conversed with these people on the internet, on social media, through message, but it's the first time I got to see them face-to-face, talk to them, engage with them as people, and have a conversation with them, and it was just awesome. Like I was a kid in a candy shop. It's like when I met Chris Claremont or Jim Lee or some of my other favorites. Like I'm standing on the shoulder of giants here, and I get to ask them questions, and they have to answer. Like, you're dance, monkey, dance. Answer my question. Give me your knowledge, Gypsy, or I'll take it from you.
We have to get him back. He's writing a time travel series that sounds really cool.
He's got a couple of time travel series. One of them is a group of Rangers that go back in time. Knowing what I know about my kind, that is a bad idea, but also entertaining.
So, like, I grew up on Harry Turtledove's, like Guns of the South, and some of the other stuff that he did. I'd like to see him take that concept and bring some automatic weapons back. The British would never land on Trenton if we did it that way, and the war would be over pretty quickly. But fill the bay with redcoats would be kind of a fun rah American story. I'd be down for that.
Yeah, but Chuck dropped a platoon of Rangers in the Aegean in ancient Greece. I'm like, oh, that's not going to go well for anybody.
Until you run out of bullets, and then you got to figure it out.
Yeah, they know how to re-bullet stuff. They know how to re-shell things.
That's why I love the Wargate stuff, though. That's what makes Wargate so fun, is that you don't lose there's always some way for them to get more bullets.
They call that the magic taco machine, I think is how they refer to it.
Yeah, the perpetual taco machine.
Yeah, perpetual taco machine. Yeah, because so one of the things that they ask you at the War College is the question is, if you sent the entire 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force back to ancient Rome, who would win, the Roman legions or the Mew? And everyone's like, of course the Mew. They got modern weapons, shoot, move, and communicate. I get it, except at the height of its power, even if you assume 1 shot, 1 kill for every round they have, they run out of bullets before the Romans run out of legions. And they didn't panic just because you killed lots of them. I mean, literally they lost at Cannae to Hannibal. And a year later, they fielded an army twice the size and, they salted Carthage. So, I mean, death just didn't scare them. So, that was the answer, of course, was the Romans would eventually win, because what good is a tank when it can't move anymore, when you don't have bullets for it anymore? It's just a metal coffin. So it's a fun concept. And then, you solve that if you can, indefinite resupply through magic.
Magic
in space. So, all right, Stabby, do you have a favorite episode? Since you pointed out that I forgot you both.
Yeah, that was just rude, JR. What's wrong with you?
Jeez, it's like I have no home training or something.
Everybody knows I love Spooktober. Spooktober's always been my favorite part, and I'm really excited that next year we're gonna do one kind of stabby spooky thing per month. I'm super excited about that, so if anybody's interested, let us know, because we'll happily bitch you guys on the spooky panels. But I obviously loved when we did the Fain gang with the vampires, the mummies, watery monsters, but I have a special place in my heart for when we did dragons and swords and sorcery. I think those had to be the funnest ones, because everybody had a different wizard in their head. No one person had the same wizard. No one person had the same ideas. And it was just too much fun to see how everybody's brain was working.
Yeah, when we originally talked about this, we were going to do horror at least once every other month. So at least 6 before Spooktober. You notice she peer pressured me, like, oh, we're going to do 1 a month. But we definitely were going to do more of the paranormal, because there's certainly a lot of meat on that bone. It's a popular topic. Everything from the, kicking butt with Larry Correia style to the paranormal romance. So there's definitely a lot of diversity in that genre where we could pick the bones. So.
And we get to watch the movie April Fool's Day.
We are going to be doing more movie episodes, more movie reviews, because there's just, if nothing else, an excuse to watch the cool movies we never have time for. So that's definitely on the list. All right, so back to books. What is the favorite thing you have read this year? Stabby, is there anything family friendly that you've read? Her eyes got really big. She's like,
Hold on. I have to check the list. I'm on book number. Hold on, let's pull up Stabby's list, because I kept them all. I am on book number 118 so far since Mother's Day. Let's see if I have anything in here that's appropriate.
So while she's looking, I will say that I actually write book reviews for Upstream Reviews. We've had them on there on a book review panel. We have shared some of my reviews of War Master there. So if you are looking for your next read, that's a good Upstream Reviews and Substack. I'll link that in the show notes. And one of the things you will find about there is if you don't like the book, if the reviewer doesn't like the book, the reviews don't get written because there's enough negativity out there. So Declan put it, like, I actually read Team Yankee, which is by Harold Coyle, about the Third World War set in the 80s during the Cold War. I did two things. I critiqued it from what my memory of reading it as a kid, where it was great, to reading it as an adult and recognizing how the writing market has evolved, because you can notice trends in the style and what the preference is. And then also critiqued the ebook, because whatever interns scanned the print book, they missed whole chapters. And just because I said, that there were parts I didn't like, they wouldn't air it because they try to be, only the positive side of the business. And I actually like that, because there's enough negativity out there. And I get it, rage bait, clickbait gets you looks, but you don't want to build a brand on that, because we'd like to make things happier. So while they're thinking about what they're going to say, if you want to look at reviews, that's a good place to start. So, Stabby, did you find anything that was family friendly? Did we scare her away?
She vanished.
You're muted.
I have to verify something real quick. Okay, so everybody knows that Stabby likes the romance novels, the smoochy. But I was like, was that one actually? No, it was not a romance novel. It was called The Five, and it's the life story of Jack the Ripper's 5 victims.
Nice. True crime meets historic fantasy.
It's the untold lives of the women killed by Jack the Ripper. And I was like, I had to verify that wasn't one of the kissy books.
So speaking of kissy, so I went to the 20 Books Vegas 2017. That was the year there was a girl who was like 9 or 10-ish. She wrote a book with her mom, like an actual proper book. They wrote it together for bonding. And so when Kobo gets up there and they're talking about the kinds of things you can sell on their platform, and they're trying to say steamy romance, etc., you can read between the lines, people. But they didn't want to offend this young girl who's in the audience, diligently taking notes to be a better professional. So we sell active romances, and that's okay. And it got me thinking, when they get older, do we call it passive romance? I mean,
No.
We ought to start a second podcast, Abby, where we can talk about your love of the more adventurous fiction.
Okay, so in all fairness, there was one book that didn't have very much steam to it at all, but it was actually a really cute book. But the name of it makes it sound dirty, and it's probably why I read it in the first place. But it's called Big Nick Energy.
Christmas themed?
Okay.
It's about a guy named Nick, and he owns a Christmas tree farm and a single mom, and they fall in love. And really, there's like thing near zero steam in it. Very Hallmark. But the name of it.
So wait a minute. Are you insulting it by calling it Hallmark? Because that generally means there's no plot. It's just the same plot recycled.
That's not
necessary. It was Hallmark with fucking
Nick.
No.
It wasn't, because that's what you just said. It wasn't.
I thought that was the point. It just sounds like.
It literally could.
You asked.
It could literally become a Hallmark movie, no problem. They wouldn't have to cut any. No, Nick. There wasn't. Stop saying that word.
So, Jana, what have you been reading? We're going to save Nick from himself.
The thing I'm reading right now that I'm enjoying the most is every night, except for when we're doing podcasts, we read as a family. And we have introduced my not quite 12-year-old to the world of Terry Pratchett. And she absolutely loves it. And for me, my first read of Terry Pratchett was decades ago. It was a long time ago. And there are things that I have forgotten because I don't get through all of them again, because there's 40 some odd books and it's a lot, and I'm reading a lot of other things. But she has just fallen in love with it. And so reading those, having my husband, he is our reader because he is an amazing reader, and having him read those out loud and watching her and remembering, oh, this is where that happens. And like right now we're reading Reaper Man. And she goes, wait, what happened to Mort? Because he was in the last book, but he can't actually be gone. And it's like, I can't tell you because it spoils everything, but he's not gone. That's for later. And she just looks at me. She's like, read faster, Dad. We have to find these things out. So that has been just joyful going back and rereading Terry Pratchett. And he is still very relevant. There are places where you go, okay, that section right there is a little bit dated or this, that, and the other. But for the most part, he is still just a delightful read. The satire, the political commentary, the fantasy, the whole 9 yards, it's still spot on. And it is so much fun.
Okay. Obviously we know you're biased because you do some editing for it, but you've also read the War Masters this year.
Yes, when she says book 7 is with the editor, that's because I'm in the home stretch, and yeah, I've read those ones and the Dark Goddess books that are coming out, and pretty much most everything that Melissa has written I have read, and I love the vast majority of it.
She had me with Napoleon era warfare and magic. I was like, dude, sign me up.
Yep, the extraordinaries.
That's one of the ones in her Discord gets people talking some. So
yeah, it's been quiet lately, but it's Christmas.
Holidays.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Melissa? What have you been reading?
Okay, so this one, I have a little story. My favorite book from this year, I have been waiting for 14 years. And that is because the author, Jasper Fforde, wrote Shades of Grey 14 years ago. And at the end of it, it ends on the need for a sequel. And in fact, he wrote the titles of the next 2 books at the end of the book. And then something happened to him, and he basically disappeared as an author for years. And he's most famous for the Thursday Next books, the Air Affair and Nursery Crimes. And he's a Welsh author who writes bizarre and mind-twisted, odd, funny books that are just they're so different. And but Shades of Grey was one of my favorites of all time. And so I waited patiently while he was getting through whatever it was, and as he was releasing other books and he's doing other things. And finally they announce that this sequel, which is not the sequel named in the back of the book, is available and it's coming out. Well, it was another 2 years before it actually arrived, and it's called Red Side Story, and it is excellent. It is everything I wanted, everything I waited for, and it is clearly not the book he would have written 14 years ago. So it was a strange experience because there were things that he didn't resolve from the first book that he did differently in the second book, and it's still satisfying. And I don't know how he managed that. That was amazing. But anyway, that was my favorite read for those reasons, not just because it was a great book, but because it was something I'd waited for, something that I could see him having worked on, and just sheer gratitude that he did not like collapse and die as an author for being gone that long. I mean, his publisher was really patient and really supportive. It was, I didn't think publishers did that because I'm guessing he's maybe more famous in England than I realize, because to me, you know, I talk about his books and people are like, I've never heard of him. So he must be more famous in England, but the fact that they stuck with him and that he was able to actually produce this book is just astonishing to me. So that was my favorite of the year. I didn't look at my list of other stuff I read, but I read Dungeon Crawler Carl, which was really great. That was my other favorite. I'm still in the middle of that series, but that's another lit RPG adventure, and it was, I don't remember when I laughed so hard. It was great. So those are my favorites.
All right, Nick, I didn't want to forget you. I know you sometimes read the books.
Yeah, on occasional, I read a book that isn't pop-up or in comic book form. I know how to read the words, despite what people say on the interwebs. My 2 favorite books this year, mainly because... well, there's that. Holy shit. Okay, so I'm not a Marine. I don't need picture books all the time. I know how to read words. I'm an airborne ranger. We're somewhat intelligent most of the time, except for when we're running towards gunfire or jumping out of perfectly good frickin' airplanes.
Or trying to pull people up into the barracks through the window.
And also pulling up 600-pound high-calorie humans up to the 3rd floor in the barracks when you're on RF1. But that's a story that has been told in another time.
All right, books. We're talking books. Back to books. Look what you did, Jesse.
True. Okay. All right. See what Jesse did? He derailed my train. Actually, he didn't derail.
It's me one time. I did it one time.
Yeah, it's Jesse's fault. That's gonna be a banner soon. It's Jesse's fault. The outlaw derailed the train. Weird that Jesse James Fain derailed a train. Weirdo. All right, so my 2 favorite books for this year, and it's mainly because this is the year that I discovered these great authors and got a chance to order their books and put some coin in their pocketbook and also read these great stories. One of them is Felix Chance by our own JE Pittman.
Thank you.
Who wrote a character that he's the world's unluckiest lucky dude or the world's luckiest unlucky dude. I haven't figured out which. He's the type of guy that could trip and fall on a rock, fall into a pile of horse shit, and hit his head on a golden nugget. I love the story. I love the interaction. I love the just range of mythological creatures that are thrown in these books. I mean, the guy started an impromptu diner on a whim because he was hungry. I think that is the coolest shit ever. And it drew me in. I was like, I got to know more about this dude. Yeah, and that was the first chapter of book 1. And then we go further, and I'm like, holy shit, this dude. I want to be this dude, but his life kind of sucks, but it's also simultaneously awesome. Like, I don't know if I could handle that world. I'm definitely happy being a spectator, watching it outside the fishbowl. The second book that I read is from our own Michael LaVoice, Galaxy's Most Wanted. Been pimping it for a while. It's a great story. I love the space combat. I love the interaction with the smugglers. I love the robots inside, the droids or whatever. They're all great characters. When I get money, I'll buy more of his books. But unfortunately, as a reader of speculative fiction, we're all kind of like minimized by how much money we have because there's so many books out there that we have to like, okay, I'm going to buy it this quarter and I'm going to buy it that quarter. And then I got to switch here and I got to switch there. Also, I can throw money into the pockets of my friends that are constantly on this show.
If you're successful enough, you can make the excuse it's a tax write-off, but I'm not at the point where that makes a hell of beans of difference.
Me neither, and I'm inches away from knocking over banks in Tijuana, but I didn't say that on this show.
What? Say what?
To fund my my book edition.
That's Nick and I's book. That's Nick and I's Outlaw and Ranger book that's coming next year.
That's just research propaganda that I'm spouting off right now. Research book. FBI, I'm sorry.
You got the wrong white elephant present. Just the okayest agent.
The world's okayest Border Patrol agent. Yeah. That was a gift. I'm going to send it to JR so he can post it. Because that was a gift at our white elephant Christmas party this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
I had one when I was in the Army that said the world's okayest sergeant. So anyway, so Galaxy's Most Wanted and Felix Chance. That's cool.
Felix Chance. Yeah, Felix Chance is awesome. That's my boy right now. He actually edged LaVoice's book as far as like priority.
So Galaxy's Most Wanted is currently on sale for 99 cents. It's cool.
Yeah, it's his omnibus, so it's books 1 through 4. And it's a 99-cent pre-order all the way up until like January 15th. So
yeah,
if you want to,
I got it on that one.
Points at LaVoice. It's
sounds good to
really
me.
Great price for a great series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a buck for a series that I couldn't say no, even though I'm a broke writer.
Yeah, I have a weakness for cheap books, so.
What I have noticed is
Felix is in KU right now, so people can just pay one subscription price and just.
There is not necessarily an Venn diagram. There is some overlap, but not in complete overlap of the people that buy the books and the people that read the books.
Mm.
So
they are sometimes two different hobbies.
Yep,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we've talked about what we have read. So have you guys watched anything that?
Wait, you forgot Jesse.
Did I? I'm sorry, Jesse.
Man, JR is on the skip somebody train.
There you go. That's Nick's cup. All right, so I'm blaming Stabby that I skipped you. Oops.
To be fair, it is not my fault. To be fair.
Right. Jesse, what have you been reading?
So I got two favorites for the year. Everybody knows I'm a huge Conan fan. That came up in this episode. It comes up in most episodes. And in the Forgotten Ruin universe, they took Sergeant Thor and ran off with him as a Conan-esque character, roaming through the Forgotten Ruin, which for people that have never read it is like Rangers and Special Forces in the world of D&D. But they never run out of ammo. They've got a machine that they can make new guns and new ammo, so they get to stay Rangers. They don't have to like start picking up swords and stuff unless they really want to. Or they don't have to go native. So I really love it. I really love all the Wargate stuff. I think it's a really cool genre. I will try and pick it up with a private military company at some point. Once I don't have 8 other projects to work on. That said, the Sergeant Thor series is really awesome. It captures that Conan feeling really well. It has a lot of sorcery feel to it while still having C4 and modern weapons and blowing stuff up. The other one is Space Pew Pew by David Batterina. Just came out. And Space Pew Pew is awesome. It's absurdist fiction. It's meant to be the same vein as we just talked about it, Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's meant to be very Monty Python, very just goofy, wacky, fun, Spaceballs kind of space sci-fi. Absolutely hilarious.
I've actually written one of those. It's a lot of extra work to try to write and be funny on purpose. Yes, mine was Vacuum Sucks Hard, Adventures of the USS Big Stick.
There you go.
And the Space Mennonite fight the Space Amish. So, with Amazons. So, you know. It was written, when I first wrote it, it was for MD Cooper did an anthology, like Pew Pew, whatever. I can't remember what they called it exactly. But the idea was it's supposed to be space comedy. And so I wrote the first 2,000 words and I sent it to them. I'm like, is this going to be okay? Because I know one way to be humorous and it's barracks humor. And they're like, yeah, maybe more family friendly. And I'm like, maybe you got to give my slot to someone else then because I don't know that I got that in me. But then I couldn't make it go away. So I finished the story and I was told it was too crude. So I got a Marine friend, Chris Winder, to help me make it more family friendly. It was so crude I needed a Marine to make it better. Family friendlier.
Okay.
And then I'm very proud of that story.
There's no situation where adding a Marine makes a situation better. That has never happened in the history.
I'm just saying, like, I named all of the defense weapons on the ships after prophylactic brands. I used fun acronyms. So, like the Amazonians, when they attacked, their SWAT team were TART teams, because if you know what that word means, a Tactical Assault Readiness Team. I had lots of fun with acronyms. I'm just saying it was rude, crude, and socially unacceptable, and I needed a Marine to bring it up to publishable standards. So, like I said, in my defense, I was left unsupervised. But yeah, so all right, so we've talked about what we've been reading. We've talked about favorite episodes. I know we're at the hour and a half mark, and I can't keep you here all night because we got more words to write and bills to pay and all that nice jazz. So, favorite movie or TV show you've watched this year? It doesn't have to come out this year, just that you've watched it this year. And so I don't forget you, Jesse, you're first.
I'm going to go with Arcane. I really loved Arcane. I played League of Legends when I was in school. I did like the game. The community is kind of toxic. Don't go pick it up today if you've never played it. But the lore and the characters are absolutely fantastic. There's hundreds of champions that all have different cool styles from all kinds of cool different worlds and things like that. It's this great, massive universe. And I was really worried when Arcane was going to get set up that they were going to try and mishmash too much in, and it was going to be some like huge world building endeavor. They went character driven. They put you right in with the problems and the points of view from some of the champions from the game, and they do an absolutely fantastic job with it. The original characters in it are absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend it.
That's the League of Legends Netflix series?
Netflix series, yep.
My niece actually recommended that we do an episode on that as a review in season 5. So it is actually already on our list.
Nice. Throw me on. I will gladly hop in.
All right, Pittman, what about you? What have you been watching? Show or series, doesn't matter.
So I've been doing a lot of rewatching lately, but the best, like, family situation stuff, I don't get to do much right now. But the best new movie I've gotten to watch in the last couple years that's come out, Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I absolutely loved that movie so much. There's nothing special about it.
It's got Henry Cavill in it. I mean, how can you not love that?
It's Henry Cavill and Reacher going nuts. It's great.
Yeah.
It's just, everybody going after
it's on my queue list. I have yet to see it. It looks great.
It is amazing. I watched it. I actually got to sit and watch it in one sitting, which is rare these days. And I've watched it probably a dozen times since. So yeah, that movie is full of so many things. It's very dry humor, very not gratuitous, but also reminded me a little bit like Lord of the Rings, like where they're counting their kills.
Nice.
That kind of, tongue-in-cheek war humor. And just great action, great intrigue, great acting. Cavill and Alan Ritchson do a great job. Henry Golding's in it. So many others. Oh, yeah. Carrie Elwes playing M. And Ian Fleming's in it. I forget the actor who plays Ian Fleming, but Ian Fleming's in it.
What about you, Stabby? I'm sorry. You're sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. That was my favorite of the year.
I'm looking forward to Henry Cavill's Warhammer, but that's supposed to be coming out next year.
We've watched 300 horror movies so far this year.
Nice.
And
there's four genres in horror.
No, we watch other stuff. That's the kicker. Is if I listed every movie we've watched, we'd be up around the 400, 500 movie mark, because that's how we like to spend time together. And with me having ADHD, I read books and watch movies at the same time. And it works for me. It keeps my brain on both. It works. I don't know how. But surprisingly, not one of those 300 movies was my favorite thing that I watched this year. We actually made it our mission, our 2024 mission, to watch every season of Supernatural, and we finished last week.
Wow.
So I think that was one of my favorite parts of this year, is that we made sure to make time to watch every season of Supernatural.
Okay. Jana, what about you? What have you watched that you've enjoyed?
All right, my very favorite thing this year was watching Transformers 1. It was exactly what I wanted it to be. It made very young me very happy, and that means it made very old me very happy, and I am very much looking forward to a whole spin-off series there, because it was great fun. It was good storytelling, and so that was my very favorite of the movies that I watched this year. And I don't watch a lot. We don't, between the writing and the everything else, there's just not a whole lot of time. So I made time for it, and I even got the hubs to go with me. So that says a lot for that particular movie.
Okay. Melissa?
I haven't watched very much of anything this year. Embarrassingly, we don't even have a TV in this house, which is kind of new for us. But it's like, well, okay. My husband and I usually watch things together, and when he stopped being interested in watching things, I stopped watching things. Just because that's, we spend time together, we do other stuff. So my favorite movie watching experience this year was actually going back to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, because I rewatched that before we did the episode, And I had forgotten how much I loved that movie when it came out and everything about it. So I could probably list all the series that I watched a little bit of and then didn't continue just because I run out of steam. But yeah, I haven't watched anything new. Well, okay. No, we didn't know. That was an old movie. Never mind. Yeah, we started watching the Fallout series. Didn't finish that. I've been watching ReZero, and I didn't finish that.
I watched the Fallout series in one setting. I loved it.
Oh yeah, well it was. That's just it. You know, I thought the first episode that we watched was really great, and we just never got back to it.
I highly recommend it.
It's like the concept of watching stuff as entertainment has stopped being appealing. And I'm kind of sad about that. I'm trying for this next year to make more time to be watching stuff either by myself or together because I miss that. But yeah, that's kind of where we've been.
So for me, these aren't new movies. They're just that was the criteria. We watched them this year. But I liked the movie 3 R's, which is not it's not Bollywood, it's Tollywood. Apparently there's a difference, but 3 R's was an awesome movie. It was just like 2 vet bros high on creatine going around. No, like muscle bros. There we go. Gym bros. That's the word I'm looking for. Gym bros high on creatine going on adventures. I mean, it was just like, it was kind of cool. I really enjoyed it. It was over the top like all Indian movie productions are, but in the best possible way. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. I kind of wish they do more with those characters, but it's based on historic events, so you kind of, you can only fictionalize it so much. So, and then of course, Dog Soldiers, which we watched but we watched it for the review episode because I've seen it several times. I am always, every time I get done watching it, sad that I know the sequel will never come because it's been in developmental hell for decades at this point. But there is so much room for epic awesomeness in that franchise. So that's kind of a disappointment. All right. Before Nick, what about you? What have you enjoyed watching this year?
Okay, so do video games count?
Sure.
Like immersive video games? All right. So what came out in 2024 is a franchise that I love. I love Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones had a video game on the Xbox called The Great Circle. It's been a great game. It's very immersive. It expands the lore. It takes place in between Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom. You have a lot of flashbacks have to do with Marion. Your first mission is recreating or reliving when he's in South America and he gets the idol and he runs from the boulder from the Jovitos. It was awesome. Oh my God, it was so awesome. And it wasn't Harrison Ford's voice, but they got a guy that does it close enough where you kind of believe it. It's Troy Baker, I think his name is.
Troy Baker. Oh, he's so good.
Oh, and he nails it too. He's like, I could practice for like hours a day and still not do Harrison Ford's voice, even though I can do like others. So it was really good. It really brought you into the world. You feel like you're Indiana Jones. First person shooter with a whip, which is the first person shooter I ever played, where it's a whip. Like you have access to the gun, but don't use it because you'll have everybody on you. So you got to use. There's a lot of stealth and a lot of puzzle making in there.
Very Tom Clancy.
It is, set in 1930, 35, somewhere around there. But no, it's a great game. The other thing that I've really enjoyed actually watching on television is a series that's been around for a couple of years. It's called What We Do in the Shadows. It had been on my queue list for years. We finished Supernatural and we needed a new show. And I'm like, hey, I have this vampire comedy. I want to see what it's about. And then I watched it. It's like The Office with vampires. And I thought it was hilarious. And it gave us a nickname for the boy, Cullen Robinson, the vampire, the energy vampire.
The energy vampire.
Because that boy will just ramble on about the most dull, mundane shit. And I swear to God, if I look over, his eyes are glowing blue. And I'm like, that is enough, Cullen Robinson. It's hilarious.
All right. So as we wrap this up, we're going to go one by one. You can tell me something you would recommend for young readers, and then what you're writing and how we can find you as we wrap this season up. So, Jesse, what did you recommend? You know, some of these young readers are going to have gift cards from Christmas, burning a hole in their pocket. So, if you could make one recommendation for a young reader, and then, you know, standard outro, what you're writing, and how they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to recommend something that they can probably find for free or for $1. Again, I don't know how well the camera's going to pick things up, but if I can get the angles right here, I have an entire sleeve that is all animals from the jungle, and that is because I am a huge lover of Kipling's Jungle Book. Don't watch the movie. The movie's awesome. Don't get me wrong. Don't watch the movie. Don't go through the 8,000 iterations of that. Go find you the classic works dollar copy of the Jungle Book and give it a crack. The stories in there are absolutely wonderful. They will captivate you. They will keep you entertained. There's free audiobooks all over YouTube. There's a LibriVox, which I recommend for any modern young reader. LibriVox does free audiobook recordings of all the classic works. You're going to get Sherlock Holmes. You're going to get Conan. When you get a little bit older, you're going to get Lovecraft and Kipling. And so that's my young reader recommendations.
So I'm assuming you're a fan of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's all those awesome classic works, which I believe are fundamental to an actual education, not the one that the government indoctrination centers want to give you. I believe that the classic works are extremely important. If you haven't done the Odyssey, if you haven't done the Iliad, if you haven't done those classic works, then you're missing out. As far as what I'm working on at the moment, I am working on my Holy Diver in the Midnight Sea. That's again a genreless kind of world where you can have magic wielding cavemen fighting giant robots kind of deal. I'm working on editing the info, getting everybody together for that. My story's done. Some of the others have started their first drafts and everything like that. I'm also working on novel sequels to all of the cool characters and a Holy Diver in the Midnight Sea novel that will all hopefully be out at the end of this upcoming year.
Nice. All right, Pittman, what would you recommend for young readers? And then what are you writing and how can we stalk you? I mean, follow you on the internet.
Oh, recommendations for young readers. All right. Read the things, A, they don't want you to. B, read above your reading grade, whatever they say that is. And C, specifically in a speculative genre. For young readers, I would go with something classic like Susan Cooper, Dark is Rising. Dark is Rising, Susan somebody, I can't remember.
Susan Cooper is right.
Yay! My aging brain is working sometimes. Or Lloyd Alexander. I loved Lloyd Alexander's stuff growing up. Beggar Queen, Black Cauldron, not the Disney version. Kestrel specifically. Kestrel was actually the first book I ever read where somebody died. And it was
I remember that.
Yep. In the forest. And yep. Just like, medieval military campaign. And one of the characters is like, wait a second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Lloyd Alexander, Susan Cooper, Dark is Rising, anything Lloyd did. It took me forever to find him as an adult because I remembered reading the books, but I could never remember the author or the title. I just was like, what are the things? And I went and I talked to a librarian about it. She's like, yep, this one. So go talk to your librarians. As
in person, peopling is a skill people are losing.
It really is. As for what I'm doing, hopefully the third book in Felix is done by now. By the time this airs, should be coming out shortly. Off Chance, wrapping up the first major arc of Felix Chance. Then I will be working. I've already done the cover for the fourth book. Don't worry. And you can find me on the interwebs at halfacrepond.com or some combination of JE Pittman or JE Pittman Writes, wherever. It's all linked on Half Acre.
Outstanding. Stabby, obviously, you don't have your author page and you're not writing books right now, but what would you recommend for young readers?
I have a 14, a 17-year-old, and a 20-year-old children's. And I will say all of them read above their reading level. My 14-year-old finished the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and is moving on to The Princess Bride and absolutely loves those. So I will always tell teens and younger readers to go and check those out. And we all know I am a huge fan of the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and I think everybody should read those. Younger generations and older generations. Everybody
young and young at heart is how you say that.
Okay. Everybody should have some spooky stories in their life, and those ones aren't too overly scary. But I know that recently Anastasia Garcia recently put out a new version of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's called Ghostly Ghastly Tales, Frights to Tell at Night. And all of the stories in this anthology are based on urban legends, lore, history, stuff like that. And I absolutely love the idea of that. So that's another one that I have recently picked up, and I think that that's another good one. If you want to have a little bit of spooky in your life, but don't want to be overly scared out of your shoes, those ones will be good ones for the youngins.
All right. What about you, Jana? What would you recommend for young readers? And then what are you writing and how can we stalk you?
Oh, let's see. I think I would actually go with Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson. It is a really, really fun series. Contemporary fantasy is probably where I would end up putting it, but about a boy whose superpower is the ability to break things. And exactly what that means. And all of his family have phenomenally strange superpowers, like his grandfather who shows up late and has been showing up late for his own death for years. So it's a fun series. It's all about, the librarians controlling the world because they control all the flow of information and what that means. So it is a great series from a young adult, really, really fun. So I would put that one in the ring. As far as what I'm doing, hopefully by this point, I am back to finishing up the next one in my urban fantasy series. The holidays kind of slowed everything down because I had to decide if I wanted to spend a lot of time writing or a lot of time making fudge. And unfortunately, you can't type and make fudge at the same time. It causes problems. So hopefully things will pick back up now as my fudge making is ebbing. And then we'll see what comes next. And then there's the reboot series that JR and I will be working on. And that's kicking butt and taking names. So that will be put together really quick.
Yeah, it's already at, we're recording this on the 17th, and I hit 20,000 words today. So
Nice.
The story is 20,000 words in, just to be clear. It'd be cool if I could write 20,000 in a day, though. That would be
awesome. And you can find me over on opalkingdompress.com or under Jena Rey or Jana S Brown or Jalen Asher all over the interwebs. I think I'm the only one of my names, so I'm not hard to locate.
All right. And Melissa, what would you recommend for young readers? And then what are you writing and how can we stalk you?
Okay, so I think it's interesting that we have all gone for older books for young readers. Even Alcatraz is a couple years old now. And as a former literary critic specializing in young adult fantasy, I will not comment on that except to say that my recommendation is to look for books by Diana Wynne Jones, who was a fantastic writer of young adult fiction back before we had young adult fiction. I'm going to specifically recommend that you look for Archer's Goon, which is difficult to categorize, but is a humorous story about a family and another family and about a lot of things that you don't expect going in. The characters are unexpected, and it's a really great story. So, but anything by Diana Wynne Jones, it looks simple and is deceptively not so. So definitely recommend that. As to what I'm doing, I am still working on the War Master series. Like I said earlier, I am close to the end of book 9. And if I work hard and don't make fudge, I can probably finish by the end of the year. And then there's only one more book in that series. So
how can we find you?
You can find me on melissamcshanewrites.com. I'm M. McShane Writes on Twitter, X, Twitter. And I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Goodreads, where I review just stuff for fun. Yeah, that's about it.
All right, Nick, before I wrap it up and I give my recommendations, what would you recommend for young readers?
Oh, I'm going to go old school, man. I'm going to go with the expanding universe of Star Wars. I'm going to go with the Young Jedi Academy. I'll also go with Heir to the Empire. I think those are some of the greatest Star Wars stories ever told, post Return of the Jedi. So I'm gonna hark those hardcore, man. I think people need to read those, especially young readers, and have a loud voice to Lucasfilm, like, hey, quit making dumb shit and like make these movies. Let's honor our heroes. Being the huge Star Wars fan that I am, obviously.
Nick, you surprised me. Do you want to know what I thought you would say?
What?
FM 7-8, the infantry rifle platoon and squad.
That's my third answer. My second tier answer is actually Dune, Frank Herbert's original Dune trilogy. I'm a huge favorite. Like, I know our audience thinks I'm the dumb knuckle dragging grunt that doesn't eat crayons because I'm a Marine. I eat caviar. It's different. But no, like, we read. Last Centurion is also a really good book. I don't know if it's probably good for like young adults to read.
Talking about Ringo?
Yeah, John Ringo's book, Last Centurion.
Yeah, no, actually, not young adult. Not young adult. Yeah, fantastic.
No, definitely not. I was forced to read that in Infantry Officer Basic. That was required reading.
Nick, hold your thoughts on that. Nick, that's going to be an episode in season 5. We're going to do it exclusively.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
I'm just previewing it.
Yeah, and it's part of the season intro. It'll be just the hosts, and one of the things we'll talk about is the state of Apogee, because we want to know where that's going to.
It's a downward spiral. It's a shitty company. I can't believe I am.
So for me, I would recommend to anybody, because I read it in elementary school, the Shannara series by it's a high fantasy novels by Terry Brooks. I really enjoyed it. The TV series was okay too. But I would say all of the Terrys are probably good. Terry Brooks, Terry Goodkin, Terry Pratchett, Terry Mixon. I like all the Terrys. But I recommend the Shannara series. I really enjoyed those. And then I read these. This was my first chapter book, but the Bulgarian series by David Eddings. Really cool. In fact, it was that series that got me into the idea of like shifting shapes into a wolf, because he wasn't a werewolf. He was just could shapeshift. But the idea of you could become a wolf, like that's where I first read about it. And I'm like, this is cool.
Was he in a werewolf?
No, he was aware because he could talk with his mind. Yeah.
He was a werewolf.
So the Bulgarian series by David Eddings, truly enjoyed that. And then I don't remember if I'm getting the name for this one wrong, but I read this in elementary school. I seem to remember it was called A Boy Rides with Hannibal, and it was a series of books put out about young people and then putting their experience in historic events and, having what that would have been like from if a kid was there. And it was about crossing the Alps with Hannibal. I have looked for it. I have not found it since, not even a Google reference, although in my head I still remember it was called A Boy Rides with Hannibal. I went to the Reddit channel that's dedicated just to finding books if you don't remember the name. I have not found it. I know I read something like it. Jesse?
How about Marched with Hannibal?
That might be it. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I just found that searching. That and totally second David Eddings while I'm talking and I'm out there. And the Elenium, his other series with Sparhawk is also awesome.
That might be it. I remember the elephant on the cover, so it might be I Marched with Hannibal. But yeah, I could be wrong. That's House Bronman. It was old when I read it, so that fits because it's a 1902 release. But I really like that. So yeah, I would recommend that. And then I've heard one There's one out there about the Lost Roman Legion called The Eagle, which is supposedly a pretty good series for young boys. I mean, it does get a little bit violent because, it's Rome. And generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, whenever you read about the ancient Romans, no matter how brutal they are, magnify it by about 10 and you'll get close because they always undersell the sheer brutality of the legions. But yeah, so that would be... I have asked the librarian and they thought I was crazy and didn't know what it was, but the librarians at my local library are all like 20-year-old, and I'm not even sure the boy can shave yet. So
I looked for it and I didn't find it either. So, and I have lots of experience at finding books. So I don't know. I'm guessing that the title is something different. If it was printed that early, they might have re-released it under a different title, and that's what it is now.
Could be.
So that's a possibility for why you can't find it now under the original title.
Yeah, it's very possible.
I don't know.
I just think a lot of fiction has gone in an attempt to fill gaps for young women to have them have role models. They have forgotten that boys still exist. So instead of serving both, they just yo-yo back and forth. And so I was looking for aspirational fiction for my young sons. And that's why I was trying to find it. I don't think you can't do both at the same time. Unfortunately, I do not think traditional publishing can walk and chew gum at the same time. And that becomes a problem. So if you know what I'm talking about, dear listener, when it comes to that book and you find it, please send me a link because I would definitely like to own a copy for my library, if nothing else. And with that said, you can find us on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTube, the TikToks, the Twitters, our Spotify website. We have our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, Blasters and Blades Podcast at gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people. Save the shenanigans from Stabby over there on the Instagram, Twitter, and the email. And finally, you can support the show over at buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee till it flows out of their eyeballs, and then they will film it and sell it to you on the internet because that's what you do. Capitalism, baby. And then if you want to help us out a little bit more, you could use the code podcast grunts with the link in the show notes. You get 10% off. We get a little bit of a kickback. It's a win-win. You support an American business. This is not a drop shipping operation. These are an actual roasting company in the continental United States shipping to the contiguous United States. I do believe they will ship to Alaska and Hawaii. Not sure if they ship overseas, but I am a huge proponent of shopping local. It makes a big difference on the economy, on the globe, just all around. It's a good thing. So, shop local, buy some coffee brand coffee, help support the show, keep the lights on. And with that, thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. We have enjoyed having you on the show for this 4th season of the Blasters and Blades podcast. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next year at the same time where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. Hey, Nick, did you notice on this write-up, I write myself as the sane one and you and Stabby as the crazy ones? You think?
Yeah, that's a total tonal shift from previous seasons.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's believing it, right? We're good. We've sold it. I don't know why you're
obviously the crazy one.
And with that, we're going to hit the end button. Don't cuss